Aloha mai kākou. Aloha. Kia ora. I just recently found out that I'm Maori, so I know I'm embarrassed to tell you how I found out, but I did find out. That's the main thing. But it was on Ancestry.com. And I see all my cousins, all from New Zealand, and I'm like, oh, look, Aotearoa, we have the Aotearoa connection. Anyway, next trip I'll bring my family, my ohana. O Venus, kauio ka vekiu, ko'i inoa, no mokupuni o Maui mai au. Noho au Eva Beach, Oahu. So I am actually from the island of Maui, born and raised all my life. And recently, I'm going to talk a little bit about the organization that I'm with. I moved to Oahu 2 years ago. And it's hard for me to ever mention the word Maui because it's still so fresh to me. My ohana, I have family from Lahaina side. My niece lost their home. My friends lost their homes. Many of them lost their jobs. So to be on Oahu when that incident happened, when I've invested so much time and energy with our people on Maui, was very hard for me not to just jump on a plane and run over there or fly over there. But I have good, hoa, good friends who took care and who just jumped to take care of our people. So I was, rest assured. When I did finally go back there, it was very difficult, but it was good to see how the community just came together and took care of each other. So mahalo for all of your acknowledgments and your pule, your prayers. I know that you sent over to Maui. Mahalo. So Halekipa, so Jamie wanted us to introduce our organization, and I think we're going to talk a little bit little later, about some of the systems change work that we've been trying to do as individuals. Halekipa is an organization that's been around for 54 years. It was started by these, I would say, it's hard, but I'm going to just say it, okay? People who came from this time of colonization in Hawaii, and they looked at our young people as these poor thing Hawaiians that we have to take care of. And we're going to just put them in this house, so they're running away, so we're going to, take care of them, which was a great thing. It was great. Okay, I'm not putting them down. But for 54 years, we were under an organization that was primarily run by Western way of thinking, Western way of managing. And yet, 45% of the young people coming through this organization are Kanaka Maoli. So, when the position came up, the second CEO of a 54-year-old organization. So these men were in position for a very long time. When it came up, a lot of my friends were telling me, please apply for this job. And I had been doing youth work and family work on Maui for 38 years. And I said, oh, okay, my husband got transferred over to Oahu, so maybe I was living the single life. I was kind of liking it, too. It's like, oh, girls' night? Yeah, sure. I'm there. So it was at that point, I just felt Keakua speaking to me. And I knew that I needed to just throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. I found out 200 people applied, including doctors, PhD, all of them. I don't have my PhD, so I'm following these two, Dr. Wahine, and I don't have my doctor. My kids keep saying, Mom, go back to school, get your doctorate. And I said, no, I got too many things to do. So I don't have time. So I threw my hat in the ring and I went through 7 interviews. 7 interviews before I finally was told that I got the position. And I knew it was Keakua. I knew. Because I kept saying, close the door, because I don't want it if you don't want me there. Close the door. And the door opened 7 times. So, so our mission, and can't really see it here, I don't know. So I'll read it. We provide young people with opportunities and supports that help them to develop into responsible and caring adults, motivated by their own passions, enabling them to create a successful life for themselves. Oh, okay. So when I came on board, being the first wahine and also the first Kanaka Maoli, I knew I was going to have some obstacles that I would have to face. I was put through a lot of scrutiny with my board, and I was wondering, like, why they hire me? You know, because I came in and I was like, the first 6 months, I just listened. I went in, I spoke to the staff, I went into the shelters, I just observed for 6 months. I met with our collaborators, our partners in the community, and in 6 months, I came up with a plan. And I was going to restructure the entire organization. And I was going to go into every single shelter, and we were going to clean it up, and we were going to make it so that these young people felt like when they walked in that it wasn't a shelter, it wasn't a prison, it was home. I walked into our very first shelter and I almost threw up. I walked in and I said, I cried. And I told the person who took me on the excursion to all of our places, I said, how can we allow our young people to live like this? And she was like, well, you know, at least they have somewhere to stay. I said, you know, I'm a mother of 6. I have 6 children. I would never allow my kids to stay here. And if I won't let my kids stay here, I won't let anyone's child stay here. We're shutting it down. They were like, what? We can't do that? We have contracts. I said, I will talk to them. And I will tell them why we're shutting it down. We cannot do this to our young people. So these are all the different programs, as you can see, that the organization started. Now, one of the things I did is I did look at data. And I saw the numbers of Native Hawaiian kids that were coming through our organization from the very beginning. From 1970. And we were still serving the same amount of Native Hawaiian kids, percentage-wise. Years later. And I said, that cannot be. We cannot continue to do that. In 2020, we opened our brand new campus. So right when I came on board, pretty much, we opened our campus in Eva Beach, Oahu, and COVID hit. The day they had the blessing, our state shut down. So almost 1 year, most of the staff were working mobile. They're going out in the community. And then they said you cannot have one-on-ones. So everything became online. So they would meet with our young people online. And we all know, right? Young people, what is their attention span? Right? They're not going to sit down and want to talk to someone on the screen for like an hour for their mental health counseling or any of that. So it was very challenging. But we continued all of the services. Then I joined. This is our hale, and please come and visit us anytime you're in town. Okay, I don't think it transferred properly, but that's okay. You guys can handle with me, yeah? So I'm going to go run through these slides very quickly just to give you an idea of what we're doing today. So we provide emergency shelters for ages 8 to 17. These are young people who are homeless and have nowhere to go. They come here if they're under 18. We also have child welfare services. When they remove a child from a home and they have nowhere to place them, they bring them to our shelters. We also have parents who probably are at wit's end, cannot handle their kids, and say, I cannot handle this child. They'll pull up and they'll drop them off to us. So we really truly are an emergency shelter. Now, the sad part is that it's supposed to only be for 3 months, right? Temporary emergency shelter. We have young people with us that's been over a year because they cannot place them in homes. We also have transitional homes. We have independent living programs and training homes for these are young people who are 18 to 24, and they are either transitioning out of foster care and have nowhere to go, or they're once again homeless and needing a place to stay. So when I came in, I realized that some of these shelters were where these young people were living. It was a mess. And so I asked them, what are we teaching them? What kind of programs do we have? Nothing. Nothing. Our young people were coming in here and basically laying around and playing video games all day. Oh, they were going out, causing havoc and coming back because they were bored. And who wants to stay in a dirty house anyway? Right? So we also have, I'll talk a little bit about the programs we instilled. I apologize for the fun. I guess it didn't transfer over correctly. But we also have a sex trafficking shelter that's designated just for those young people who are being sex trafficked. People think, Hawaii, we don't have sex trafficking. We have one of the highest. We have military bases. We have high tourism. A lot of our sex trafficking comes from the black market, advertising online. I can go on, but I won't. We have therapeutic foster homes. So these are young people who get identified with high needs mental health. And so the regular foster home is not conducive and cannot provide the type of mental health that they need. And so Halekipa actually has a contract to provide those type of foster homes. So we train the parents, the foster parents, or resource caregivers, we call them today, to care for these young children. We also have in-home mental health services. So these are, our counselors go out, meet them at home, at parks, wherever, to provide counseling. And this one is our youth outreach, so our homeless outreach. So we go into Waikiki, and where a lot of our homeless young people are. And now we're finding a lot of our young people under bridges. So they call them the bridge youth. So they're underneath the bridges with their ohana, and sometimes the ohana leave, and the kids are under many of our bridges around the island. And then we're making our way in Waianae. We have a lot of homeless there too, young people. So just very quickly, our numbers. So we've served over 74,000 since we started. 45% are Kanaka Maoli, 44% are male, 56% female, and we have a total of 21 outreach programs that we run as well. Okay, I cannot even see this slide, but that's okay. What we're doing is we're providing accessibility, right? So access is a huge thing for our young people. Safety, respect, and self-determination. We're doing that by helping them with educational goals, career goals, life skills, Work training. We do an entrepreneur program now, Maulipreneur. All of these started in the last 2 years. Financial literacy, trade certifications, mental health counseling, and Ohana counseling. So we provide all of that. And I wanted to share the name of our program is called Kahuali'i. Now, a lot of times people will ask, what are you going to name your youth program? So you look at the youth and what you want to do. Kahuali'i is really the stance of a person back when our chiefs were getting primed to take over on our islands. There were a designated kahu or priest that would actually take our ali'i and train them and care for them. And so kahuali'i, I wanted to get our staff to understand our role. This is who we are. We are training up our next warriors. We are training up our next ali'i. So the name of the program is Kahuali'i. That's who we are, and that's what we do. So every time we look at our young person, we see a future ali'i. We opened our very first Ohana Center, our Ohana Resilience Center, just last November. I could not believe that for 54 years we worked with youth and we never worked with the families. What? Are you kidding me? You cannot work with our young people and not include the Ohana. You have to work with our family because when they leave us, guess who they go back to? So we have to provide our family with the same kinds of resources and access. And so we do parenting classes based on traditional Hawaiian values called Kamalama Parenting Curriculum. We help them with access to medical and housing for them and their children. We have a shelter for single, right now we have 2 single moms with their babies in this shelter. We took this shelter and I changed it into our Ohana shelter. This used to be a shelter and then it was empty for a while. And I said, let's just clean it up, write a grant, get it fixed up, and then we'll open this. And so that's exactly what happened. So our congresswoman helped to support that. Oh, and then once again, financial literacy for our families and Ohana counseling. And that's us, that's me. So we talked about the prison system and child welfare, and most of my work, and they'll continue, but most of my work comes from working, like I said, with children, youth, and their families. And one of the things that I noticed is when I was a social worker at Halava Prison, one of our medium to high security prison, when I would go and look at my inmates' files to do their parole report, I noticed that majority of them, their pilikia, or the problems that they were facing with crime and the judiciary, all started when they were young. It all started when they were young. They didn't start like at 30, 40 years old. There were like these little things where we could have provided intervention that would probably have stopped them from entering into the criminal justice system. So I knew I needed to go back and work with youth. I took a break that time. I was getting like, when you work so much, and I was getting burnt out working with youth. And then I ended up at the prison and I was like, I gotta go back. So I went back. I just practiced better self-care and wellness for myself, because I knew that it was just taking a lot from me. I had gone through a couple divorces, and I said, how can I work with families and I can't even take care of my own family? And it was a big wake-up call for me. And that's when I needed to pivot and make a shift. So I came back and I knew I was gonna okay, take care of my 6 kids. Well, at that time I only had 4. And then I got married and got 2 more kids from him, bringing it into the family. So Anyway, so what I wanted to do when I started working with Halekipa is to really look at, when you talk about school to prison pipeline, we need to break it, right? We need to stop that happening. So you know how they have that story about the children who are drowning in the river, right? And these people are walking by and they saw these kids drowning in the river. And so they went and they started pulling out the kids one by one, right? And going, well, we got to save these kids. And then somebody had the foresight to go, wait, where are they coming from? Let's go upstream. And they found out that the kids were falling off the bridge. So they fixed the bridge. And when I think about that, that's kind of what I want to do, right? I want to fix a bridge so they stop falling in the water. And so with this, what we started is the systems change work that I'm working on right now is Malama Ohana, and it's a working group. And in 2018, we looked at the statistics with the amount of Native Hawaiian children, our Kanaka Maoli kids, going through the child welfare system. And if you look at the percentages, you will see there's not much difference. Now, this was just the 5 years that we had looked at. However, if you go further back, it's the same. We just got 2022 number out. It's 43%. So we're still the same. So I said, this system is not serving us. What are they doing to make a difference? Nothing. 5 days ago, we had another 10-year-old girl die under the foster care system in Hawaii. We said we cannot continue to see our young Kanaka Maoli as well. We cannot continue to see this happen, right? So we started a group. As you know, Kanaka Oiwi, our Native Hawaiian, we followed the kauhale system. Traditionally, our families, much like yours in the marae, we would have a communal type of family living experience, right? So everyone lived and cared for each other within this kauhale, we called it. Well, when a child could not be cared for by their biological parent for some reason, the community would come together and decide where was the best placement for this child if the parents didn't already select someone. And that person would take on the child and would hanai this child as if it was their own, would raise this child as their own. And because we knew what a blessing children were, at times when a wahine could not bear a child, we would birth a child and give her a child because we knew the joy and the aloha that a child can bring. We call that hanai. In today's system, we call that adoption. We also had another system, and I'm so sorry it didn't, I don't know what happened to the slides. The other system is called luhi. So this practice of luhi was when a child temporarily needed placement because a parent needed to travel, or maybe they were sick and they needed to get well. So until the parent got better, someone would care for that child. We call that the practice of luhi. Today, we call that foster care or resource caregiving. We had a system, is my point. Kanaka Maoli had a system of how we cared for our children. We never gave birth to our children to be cared by the government. The government was never to raise our children. And yet, 45% of our children are being raised by the government. That has to stop. We know that it's...
You have to
Okay.
go to your system's work.
Okay, oh, pow. So okay, sorry. I taking too long, sorry. So our systems work is that we entered into this partnership. We called together community members that would like to address this. Looking at our traditional work and what is happening today and what are we going to do, those critical shifts, right, that we wanted to see take place. And you can go online and look up more about this work. I'm going to skip through all of this because I can't even read them. I don't know what happened. But basically what happened is we ended up writing a bill. And I know people have judged me and said, why would you want to work with the government? And the reason why is because we don't have a sovereign nation that's been recognized. And I gotta work with the government. So we put together a bill and it got passed. And the bill basically says that we would create a working group. And this working group would go across our state and it would talk to people with lived experiences. And that basically with this working group representing all these different life experiences, we have youth in there who have been through the foster system, parents who have had their children taken away. We have caregivers, resource caregivers. We have kupuna. And we have the main Kanaka Maoli organizations come together and CWS workers. And we are going out and we're creating these kind of focus groups across the state. And when we get all of their input, their mana'o, we're going to go back to legislators and we're going to present them with our recommendation of how we're going to transform this child welfare system to better serve our Kanaka Maoli. And because we believe you take care of our Kanaka Maoli, all others get taken care of. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're in the midst of it. So we created our little committees and we're going out starting April. So April, we're going to start hitting the Pai'aina and getting the input. And in October is when our report is due to the legislators. And that's it.